Lost from real rise.
Hello, YouTubers. So as you know by now, I am a big wrestling fan. I've been a wrestling fan pretty much my entire life. I've been watching WWF, now WWE, pretty much since I was a little kid. So, you know, I have been a big wrestling fan for a long time. These days, you know, it just doesn't quite seem to be the same. You know, I don't know if it's just me or what the case may be, but it just isn't quite as good anymore. And, you know, it just makes you nostalgic for the good old days. But, you know, even more so than the way WWE used to be, I really miss ECW. ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling, was an independent promotion around the popular around the times of the Monday Night Wars, when WWE, then WWF, and WCW were going head-to-head. ECW was this little rival promotion, this little independent promotion that was fighting to get its own recognition. In its heyday, in its most popular time, ECW kind of had everything that WWE and WCW didn't have. You know, they were actually like a real alternative, something we don't have to this day. They originated in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so kind of my home area. So that was really cool for me. But you know, they brought something that a lot of, you know, that the big guys didn't have. They brought a huge variety. Now, a lot of people remember them for the extreme matches, the hardcore matches, and a lot of people criticize it for being, you know, just that. But what people forget is that ECW wasn't just that. That's part of what made ECW so great, yes. And that's a big part of, you know, that they kind of brought that when no one else was doing that. But that wasn't all that there was to ECW. You know, you may have had your hardcore matches, your hardcore brawls with guys like Raven, Tommy Dreamer, Sandman, you know, Cactus Jack McFoley. But then you would also have, like, your Lucha Libre matches. You know, awesome matches with guys like Rey Mysterio and Psychosis, you know, Super Crazy. Stuff that, you know, at the time, neither of the big two were really doing. And then you had your, like, awesome, like, great, like, just good matches with guys like Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, guys that would just tear the roof off of the house and just wrestle an awesome match and didn't even really need to be hardcore. And, you know, the fans still loved it. They still ate it up. I want to talk about some of the things that made ECW awesome. First of all, of course, you can't talk about ECW without talking about Paul Heyman, also known as Paul E. Dangerously. He was like the father of ECW. You know, he was kind of the creative. He was, you know, he really brought a lot of what made ECW, you know, was his vision. He brought a lot of that to ECW. He let the stars go out there and kind of have the freedom to do, you know, to do what they thought, to do what they wanted to do. You know, and that's a lot of what made ECW awesome. Now, of course, a wrestling company is can only be as big as the stars that are in it. So, you know, very early on, one of the guys that helped to make ECW was Sabu. Sabu was just insane, high-flying, you know, homicidal, suicidal, genocidal. He just did crazy shit that people, you know, people just hadn't seen before. Nowadays you take you take it for granted, stuff that happens, but I mean, you know, he would just do crazy stuff, like he would, you know, moonsault into a table even if nobody was on it. His opponent wasn't even on it. He would jump, you know, he would bounce off the ropes, jump from a chair to the other side of the ropes and out of the ring. I mean, he just did crazy stuff, you know, and that he helped to, you know, kind of make ECW what it was. There's of course Tommy Dreamer. He was like, you know, the innovator of violence. He was kind of the heart of ECW. One of the things that helped to most form ECW in the early years, one of the biggest things was his feud with another guy, Raven. Raven was kind of just very had like a grunge style. Raven was like, you know, the outcast. He was like, you know, the guy you'd expect to see sitting in the crowd, but he was like their champion. So he and Tommy Dreamer had an awesome feud that spanned like literally, I don't know what, years, while Raven was still there. Then of course you've got Terry Funk, a legend in the business, former NWA World Champion. The thing that was awesome about Terry Funk is that he understood that you have to kind of, you know, you have to pass along the business to the younger talent. You have to get them ready to be the new top talent. So he went into ECW and, you know, he pushed a lot of talent. He wanted to help to build new talent. Taz. Now, Taz was just badass. Taz was like a tough guy. Taz was just badass, and he would choke out anybody. You know, and it was really cool. I mean, you know, being an ECW fan, you really believed Taz was like the toughest dude in the world. He would throw like awesome suplexes. Taz was one of those guys who was big in ECW without having to be hardcore. He didn't have to do like the, you know, the barbed wire, the tables, the chairs. He was just awesome. Of course, you can't forget the Sandman, beer swilling, cane swinging, cigarette smoking. You know, he's another guy that was just like the epitome of ECW. A lot of what he did actually kind of got stolen by WWE for the Stone Cold Steve Austin character. And you also got Cactus Jack McFoley. You know, at the time when he first started coming around, he was part of WCW. So he started coming to ECW, and then eventually kind of just came over to ECW full time when he left WCW. He was, you know, another guy. He could do the hardcore brawls, but he could also put on a really good match, take a good bump. But he was awesome on the mic. I mean, he was just golden on promos. And, you know, he's some of the best stuff he did in ECW, as a lot of people say, were the anti-hardcore promos that he did. Of course, then there's also, now he came a little later, but there's Rob Van Dam. And he did a lot of really cool things, too. A lot of kind of things that people have never seen either. He was really, you know, he took high flying to a new level, and, you know, had just like an amazing level of flexibility that people had never seen. He was the ECW World Television Champion for, God, it must have been like 2 years, something like that. I forget, he held it for like so long. ECW also had awesome tag team wrestling, and you can look no further in ECW tag team wrestling than the Dudley Boys. And of course they had their little brother Spike Dudley, the runt of the Dudley litter. The Dudley Boys were just great, and you know, it was awesome when it started, and when Devon and Bubba became, you know, the tag team, it just got even better. They were tag team champions in ECW, I don't know how many times. So now I'm probably going to forget a lot of people. I mean, there was Mikey Whipwreck, there was Stevie Richards and the Blue Meanie, Blue World Order. I know I'm going to forget a lot of people, but, you know, I kind of want to just at least, you know, cover some of the guys that really made ECW what it is. You know, a lot of times, you know, ECW would bring in talent and really give them a chance to shine, and it really helped them to move on in their career. I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin, he came to ECW before he went to WWF. Now WWE. You know, he came to ECW, and ECW really gave him a chance to show what he could do, to show who he could be. WCW really never gave him that chance, and if it weren't for ECW, we probably never would have had a Stone Cold Steve Austin. So, you know, a lot of people forget stuff like that, and, you know, to this day, I really miss ECW for what it really was. WWE tried to bring it back at some point, and, you know, they just never really gave it a chance, and maybe they never really could have, being, you know, on a more mainstream, they couldn't get away with as much, but they never really gave it a chance to be what ECW is meant to be. Alright, thank you, YouTubers. Have a nice day.